Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Goodhart, writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2016 romantic comedy drama titled My Blind Brother. Now, My Blind Brother runs for 1 hour and 25 minutes long. It is directed by Sophie Goodhart. It is produced by Tyler Davidson and Tori Tunnell. The script was written by Sophie Goodhart. The score was done by Ian Hultquist. The cinematography by Eric Lynn. And it was edited by Jennifer Lee. And the stars of the movie are Adam Scott, Nick Kroll, Jenny Slate, Charlie Hewson, Maryann Nagel, Gregg Violand, Talia, Tabin, and Heidi Lewandowski. So, based off of the script by writer Sophie Goodhart, who's been making her direct... Oh, shit. Perhaps we should try again. Like I said, based off of the script by writer Sophie Goodhart, who's also making her directorial debut, My Blind Brother focuses on the attention of people challenging themselves to achieve great accolades in spite of their disadvantages, while also taking the time to focus on the people who bend over backwards for them and how much little to no credibility is given to them. When you think about it, and this is not taking any kind of credits away from people who have had disabilities and disadvantages who had actually went on to achieve great heights. I mean, I give a good praise and a good salute and a good sign of respect to these kind of people. But then you sometimes have to wonder about the background people who have actually helped them out to achieve their goals and how little to no credibility they get for their contributions, not even a say. Take for example, and then this is hard for me to actually take as an example, but you take somebody like, let's say, Terry Fox. As much as the guy did an incredible deed of going on this long journey, this long marathon of hope, walking across Canada to raise millions of dollars for cancer research, hats off to him. I give a lot of praise. I give a lot of respect to the man. It's a shame that the guy died at a relatively young age. Not a pleasant thing by any means of the imagination, and I have a lot of tremendous respect for him and for what he has done in the short life that he lived. He probably achieved a lot more than what people their entire lives achieved. That's for sure. And all respect goes out to him. But the fact of the matter is, did he just do it on his own merits? Did he do it alone? Of course not. He had a lot of police backup. He had people behind him. He had spotters. He had sort of like people following him around, the media, the press. And even though maybe they didn't deserve the credits, but there were also spotters and fellow walkers nearby who had helped Mr. Fox along the way. I mean, he didn't just do it on his own without any confines or assistance. He had lots of assistance. But of course, it's going to be him who's going to get the majority of the publicity because this was his idea, and that's understandably so. But then you got to wonder about the people who had helped him along the way. Did they ever get any credit or any accolades? Not really. I don't even think they even ever got even a simple thank you. So this is kind of like what the focal point of this movie is. It centers mostly around not just a person who's trying to win races or swimming competitions for further money so that they could go for whatever charitable cause they're pursuing. It's mostly about the people who are working behind the scenes and to see how they feel that they don't really get the the credit that they deserve. They deserve just as much credit as the main star of this cause. They're always put in the background with getting very little to no thanks or gratitude. Almost as though as if they were either an afterthought or not even thought of to begin with. So that's kind of like what this movie is about. It's the thankless jobs people go through, and it makes you wonder what their lives are like, even though they're the ones who are overlooked as the media gravitates to the handicapped because their stories definitely spark more to the public spectrum. Remember, it's all about publicity, it's all about ratings. News isn't always, about informative stuff. Sometimes news is about things that spark to their interests. And their interest is not towards the able bodied or the ones who are able to see and hear and think better. Nobody gives a fuck about them. Their focus is on the disadvantaged. And the disadvantaged people are the ones that are getting all the accolades. And sometimes they think that they're doing this all on their own when they're really not. As much as we respect those, I mean, we take sorry and we take great pity for them, but in the end, they're not just doing this alone. And sometimes you often wonder, how does it feel like I'm the one who's like doing everything for them and I'm getting shit all? Not even worth a mention or a thank. We also look at the different direction to the disabled to see if they're really as humble as they are to the media. Or are they using this media as a pawn and as an excuse to win attention to the world? And though I know that Terry Fox and Rick Hansen are were actually legitimately doing this for the sake of the greater good, for more research on cancer in the case of Terry Funk, and more for Rick Hansen in terms of finding more research for help to cure the paraplegics. So and I've heard about them being humble individuals, but there are also a lot of people who just like the able-bodied, the disabled also seem to like to bask in the glory and winning and doing all these charitable deeds. You may think they're doing a selfless deed, which partially they are, but they're also doing this, you know, it's all comes down even to ego. Ego does also play a part in their lives as well. They want to be the first. They want the spotlight all on them, and everybody else can just take a hike. That's kind of somehow, that's sometimes the reactions I see from these people. And I'm not being an ableist, or I'm not being, anti handicapped, or people who have disadvantages like being blind or mute or deaf. or crippled or paraplegic. No. I like all people no matter what. And yes, it is sad that they don't have the same privileges as the able bodied. But also at the same time, a lot of them are not humble in their ways of giving thanks. There's a lot of ego that also goes with them. I think it just is a natural thing. Humans, no matter what walk of life you're in, we're all pretty much conventionally egotistical and self-righteous. Don't give me any of this bullshit that you're better than others, because I'm gonna tell you something. Nobody is better than anyone. No one is inferior, no one is insignificant, but at the same time, no one is superior and no one is overly significant. It's not one person's up here and another person's down here. I think we're all kind of at the halfway point. And that's the way we should look at people. Don't look at someone who's holier than thou, because they're really not. But at the same time, you don't have to drag people down to stoop to your level to make yourself feel empowered and toxic. Just stay in the middle ground. It's okay to be proud of yourself. It's okay to gravitate to the spotlight and feel that winning spirit in you. But also at the same time, you have to look into the people who had helped you along the way and give them the credit. Okay? We can use a few George Harrisons and Ringo Starrs aside from the overexposed Lennon and McCartneys. The script definitely depicted the script depicted here concentrates how even though the able-bodied might not get the tabloid attention the disabled gets, it still shows that the humble types could never win, which may be cynical but refreshingly true. The film's dark comical tones is bold and truthful and looks at the strengths and weaknesses from both parties and gets us to find the humor in places we would least likely expect. So there is actually humor seen in this movie, but it is told in darker tones. Even though the movie is pretty much lighthearted, it seems kind of has this independent movie type feel good in it. Still, the movie kind of fails in terms of it being a little dark, a little cynical, and may not always have the positive message that you would probably expect from a much light-toned movie. It's got kind of some darker elements. The sibling rivalry sometimes portrayed in this movie can be at times a bit at a level of intensity. As we will talk a little bit about the plot of the story. The brotherly duo of able-bodied Bill, played by Nick Kroll, and his visually impaired brother Robbie, played by Adam Scott, are not only figuratively, but they are actually literally inseparable. No, they're not two-headed monsters with only one who can see and the other one can't. No, nothing like that at all. Bill always has his back on Robbie, as Robbie, despite his disability, challenges himself in sporting events to raise money for charitable causes, while never giving his brother Bill any credit for his contributions. From running in marathons to swimming across a lake, Bill literally has Robbie's back, in spite of the fact that Bill's not fond of athletics. He just wants Robbie to win races so that he doesn't let Robbie's spirit down, while also probably not letting his parents down, because if Robbie does lose a race or has his spirits down, Robbie's not going to be the one who's going to get in trouble. It's Bill. Bill's going to be the one who's going to get the shit. So this is one of the reasons why Bill, although very reluctant to take part in these things, does so anyway. Part of it is because of guilt from an incident years ago which caused Robbie's blindness, and I guess he still feels guilt-ridden towards it. But at the same time, we can tell that deep down inside, Bill is not exactly very happy of having to be Robbie's metaphorical seeing eye dog who walks on 2 legs instead of 4. Lamented by his thankless disposition, Bill finds reassurance to another tortured soul who goes by the name of Rose, played by Jenny Slate, who's guilty over the death of her ex-boyfriend who died after a bus accident. So then we got the whole misery meets company quota where the two bond until Rose eventually loses interest in Bill. But she's not out of the picture by a long shot. In an unexpected twist, she starts to take over Bill's job as Robbie's swimming instructor, which leads to Robbie making passes towards her and making life more difficult to the people around him, especially his brother Bill. So now we kind of have a bit of a love triangle between Bill, Rose, and Robbie. And apparently the wedge that was already between the two brothers just got even bigger with Rose in the picture. I mean, if Bill did not have a backbone, they probably would have ended up just being platonic friends. But obviously, Bill found Rose first. So, it's just kind of like the way he wants to try to sort of like win her back into her life, because Robbie is only just taking advantage of her because of his blindness, and that she's trying to take over Bill's job, even though Bill completely hates it. The comedy that is featured here is not presented in a satirical perspective, but rather as a way to introduce characters who seem to internally trapped in a world of guilt. We see the brothers as they strive their way to the finish line of this important race, and while Robbie seems to make out very smoothly with the race, Bill, who's literally is as the background player, is sweating brutally and is just determined to getting the race over with. I mean, he's practically the extra set of legs for Robbie. And sure, Robbie's able to move his legs around, no problem about that. I mean, he's blind, but he's not crippled. Sure, he's disadvantaged, yeah, but he's not, a cripple, but he's still, needs that extra pair of legs to get him to the race. As the film progresses after the post-race festivities, Robbie makes a speech thanking everyone who has helped him make his victory possible, even going as far as to thank God over his own brother, who literally carried him all the way through and not getting any of the credit for it. This is, of course, leads Bill to show resentment for his disposition and has become tired of Robbie's attention-seeking ways. He even went so far as to say to Rose that he wishes he'd have a disability, then people can give him the attention if that's the only way to get it. Some people might say that maybe Bill is being the selfish one because of the fact that he's jealous of Robbie's achievements, while Bill is practically stuck in a dead-end job when he's not being, Robbie's seeing eye dog. He's pretty much a dead-end job working in some food industry or something, I don't know. Let's face it, the guy practically feels like a prisoner in Robbie's life. And he's not getting any credit for it. That's what kind of pisses him off more than anything. The comedy in this film is executed with a truthful way that's not played for laughs, but as a reflection of siblings who are not fully unionized due to both envy and pride. By adding Rose to My Blind Brother, it helps keep the flow of the narrative steady and well structured, and her intention was not to create a wedge between the sibling rivalry of Robbie and Bill. Rose has the knack of putting others before her as she becomes infatuated with Robbie because he's blind, he's disabled, even though it's clear she knows it's against her better judgment. She just pretty much feels bad for him. But since he seems to be also making the passes towards her, she just feels somewhat connected. Even though it's kind of odd, it's pretty obvious that Bill saw her first. And maybe she didn't mean any ill will towards her and Bill. He wants to try to make it up to her, even while at the same time he doesn't want to, upset his brother Robbie. Though it may hint that we are seeing a love triangle in which the oblivious blind man is the centerpiece behind the love triangle, Goodhart ensures that the focus is equally relevant to the relationship between Rose and Bill, as their troubled lives are very much important in the story. I think, really, to tell you the truth, even though the stars are pretty much Robbie and Bill, Adam Scott's, and Nick Kroll, it's actually Rose's role, Jenny Slate, that really is the focal character in the story, as it kind of puts a clever piece to what could have been easily a generic story, but putting her in here not just as a token love interest, but as a further adjustment to the story. I think she did the rightful job, and a good one at that as well. The jokes are featured here with some focusing on the blind, but they do it in a way that is mature, that it's neither abrupt or mean-spirited, and it actually features a funny scene where Robbie makes the efforts of learning to drive a car. The main emphasis to the movie is the fact that the film is primarily a character study, as Rose tries to surpass her angst by turning to Bill, whose angst stems from being responsible to his brother's blindness, while finding comfort in the problem-free blind brother as a way to escape and inject pity due to his disability. Usually, like everyone else in the movie, it's easy to fall in love with a blind guy because of his disability, which is pretty much a non-factor. It's obvious. But in the end, we are all blinded by what kind of character Robbie truly is. You may think that, just because he's blind, you may think of him as being a level headed individual, but he's just as corrupt minded, he's just as ungrateful, and he can be also just as mean spirited as people in general. I'm not trying to be a complete misanthropist, but at the same time, he is very well just as selfish as any normal average person. He's obviously unsympathetic, ungrateful, and definitely kind of a jerk towards his brother, and thrives on the attention he gets. His parents practically worship him and actually respect him a lot more than it should be him respecting them because they're his parents. But his parents are like bend over backwards for them and love and respect him, while Bill is nothing more than just an afterthought, if even that's possible with him too. He's not even an afterthought. He's practically virtually semi-negligent towards them. Adam Scott truly makes the bold effort in making his character extremely unlikable. The psychological scars that are handled with care, but their presence speaks volume. With the feeling of indie movie flowing all around, Sophie Goodhart assures us that these troubled souls of the characters stray from being cliches while maintaining a script that's both intelligent and provocative. I'm going to say hats off to especially the three leads, Adam Scott, Nick Kroll, and Jenny Slate, for putting on some great performances in a very overlooked and underrated movie. Okay, it's not going to win Oscars because of the fact that this movie is very, low budget. But I will give some credence where credence is due. This movie is very well acted. It's short. Yeah, it's only an hour and 25 minutes long. But it's worth a watch. There's a lot of fun moments in this movie. There's a lot of some good comical timing from the characters, even though it's more felt like a little bit more closer to not a satirical sense, but more like a comedy drama, which means that we have a bit of comedy juxtaposed very well with the dramatical elements in this movie. And I think it works out well in the long run. So if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would definitely give My Blind Brother an 8. I highly recommend you see this movie. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember the 3 simple rules: be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Karate Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.